Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? What we're going to talk about right now is the fact that we are heading into a future that will be deeply impacted by climate change and restrictions on travel to combat it. Warnings of a travel extinction where some areas suffer such radical climate change that all tourism there ceases to exist, and personal carbon allowances that will restrict how often one is permitted to travel. So, who here in the community lives in an area that is considered tourist attraction? Like I live in the Tampa Bay area, not too far from the amusement park Busch Gardens. And I live in an area that is considered a tourist attraction. Like my parents, they live in Orlando, which is not too far from their house isn't too far from Disney. These are the type of areas that will be hugely affected by this. A personal carbon emissions limit will become the new normal. It seems like we all have like these new normals that just keep coming out. New normal, right? And personal carbon allowances could help curb carbon emissions and lower travel's overall footprint. These allowances will manifest as passports that force people to ration their carbon in line with the global carbon budget. And by 2040, we can expect to see limitations imposed on the amount of travel that is permitted each year. And experts are actually suggesting that individuals should currently limit their carbon emissions to 2.3 tons each year. Now, for all practical purposes, your carbon emissions will line up with your energy usage, your electricity, everything, okay? Give or take a relatively narrow band of efficiencies, unless we have some kind of a clean energy breakthrough. And the only viable one that we have right now is actually nuclear. It's not considered clean energy by this climate cult, if you will. To put in layman's terms, your standard of living is your energy usage. Reducing a society's energy usage is the same as reducing its living standards. I'm going to show you a table graph, okay, that lays out exactly how much the standard of living for each resident of each country will have to be reduced in order to meet this recommended carbon quota that is set by unelected experts. This is the level of degrowth it will take to satisfy the objectives of climate alarmists that are relying on unfalsifiable premises, arbitrary computer models, and who are deliberately ignoring and suppressing data. So here is that table graph. Now, how serious are our leaders and our policymakers about reducing the citizenry living standards by up to 85%? A reporter was asked I guess he's like a minister, Canada's environment minister, and his name is Stephen Guilbelt. I can't pronounce his name, but it's Guibeault. And he asked this guy a question. Okay. And the minister rather confirmed, he confirmed, but he didn't confirm. That's like, okay, that type of answer, that the government will now limit natural gas usage in order to fight climate change. So the reporter said, there will be limitations on how much natural gas you can use in the winter. And the minister said, yep, absolutely. That's what fighting climate change looks like.
There will be limitations on how much natural gas you can use.
Yes, absolutely. That's what fighting climate change looks like. limiting the amount of fossil fuels we're using. We're doing that in the transportation sector. We're doing that in the cement sector. We're doing that in the steel and aluminum sector. We're also doing it in the electricity sector, and we're doing it in the oil and gas sector.
Now, I think CBDCs will invariably launch as or morph into personal carbon footprint quotas. Right now, what we call the fiat money system uses debt for money. That's no longer sustainable. So we are expecting an attempt to switch what we loosely identify as money away from symbolic tokens backed by debt, social credit scores, backed by personal carbon footprint quotas. Now, if you're asking yourself what the carbon footprint quota is, I'll tell you, I'll explain it to you. But first, did you know that there is such a thing as emissions trading? Or it's sometimes referred to as cap and trade or allowance trading. It's an approach to reduce pollution that has been used successfully, I guess you could say, to protect human health and the environment. Emissions trading system and the CO2 quota is a system that is applied to every member state, like even the EU, even here in the US. Okay, it affects more than 10,000 power plants and the factories just alone in the EU. The essence of this system is to establish a carbon dioxide emission quota that a given company, a factory, a plant, a power station, and what they can emit every single year. And if they emit more than the amount that is allotted to them, they have to purchase the excess quota from another company that has used less than its quota, that is accumulating a surplus. Yeah. So here's a way to like define it and describe it to you. If a company has a quota of 1,000 units a year, but it exceeds the carbon dioxide emission limit and uses 1,200 units, it must purchase the extra 200 units from another company that has only used 800 of its allotted 1,000 units. So the remaining 200 units can now be sold. And this gets even worse, so just hang on. The location of the emissions sources covered by a cap and trade program depends on its scope that is set out in regulation or in legislation. There are programs in the European Union, in the United States, which is California and RGGI, Canada and Alberta and Quebec, and emerging systems all over the world, including China, Korea, and South America. In the USA, there are 2 emissions trading systems as of 2020. The Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is that RGGI, that began in 2009. And RGGI is the first mandatory GHG cap and trade system in the United States. It includes 11 northeastern and mid-Atlantic states. Each state establishes its own cap and trade program that it sets limits on in-state CO2 emissions from electrical power plants. And these programs link to a multi-state allowance market. And the cap and trade program established by California's Global Warming Solutions Act, AB 32, started in 2013. And it covers 85% of California's GHG emissions, including the transportation sector. And the California and Quebec cap and trade programs are linked together. So this footprint and trading has gone so far as to where you can now go on a website called landgate.com, LANDGATE.com. You can actually sell land that you own for extra carbon credits. So when it comes down to like individuals, people, citizens having to follow this carbon footprint and we can't go over a certain amount of whatever in there, okay, you can now sell your land for carbon credits. And yeah, this is actually happening here in the US. I did some digging in my area and Florida is loaded with land that has been sold for carbon credits, and you can buy this land as well as also on this website. I found a property in Tampa on Citrus Park Drive that's 2.4 acres. All I would have to do is make an offer through this website. Here, take a look. Okay, now you saw that picture. Here's another picture of all the land that is for sale that was sold for carbon credits in the United States alone. And it says right on the website that you list your land for lease for carbon credits and any other resource on LandGate's unique marketplace for free. Your land is marketed to thousands of prospective lessees and buyers. This world, okay, has gone completely off its rocker with this. You know how we were constantly getting phone calls from companies wanting to buy our homes? How much do you want to bet that this is the next type of phone call that we're going to be getting to sell our properties for carbon credits? Just saying, okay? Because I think that's what's next. I really, truly do, okay? All right, guys, I'm out of here. I will see you in the next one. You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fear less. Ciao.